Welcome to our deep dive into advanced mathematical thinking.
Oh, yes.
We've got excerpts from Advanced Mathematical Thinking,
Okay.
a book that's not just a typical textbook, but like a collection of ideas
Yeah.
from mathematicians and math educators.
hmm
And they're all trying to figure out
Right.
how our brains handle those higher level math concepts.
It does get pretty meta.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
pretty deep stuff, but I'm excited.
Yeah. It's a valuable resource for anyone working with advanced mathematics.
Yeah.
Whether you're a student or a teacher or just someone who's curious about how mathematical minds work.
I am already hooked.
Okay, right.
The idea that there are different kinds of mathematical minds
Right.
is fascinating.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, back in the early 1900s, Henri Poincaré noticed that not all mathematicians approach problems the same way.
Okay.
He observed two main camps, the logical analytical thinkers and the geometric visual thinkers.
So it's like some mathematicians are all about equations and proofs,
Right.
while others see shapes and patterns.
That's a great way to put it, and this challenges the idea that there's only one right way to be good at math.
That's really encouraging to hear.
Yes, it is.
So if someone listening is struggling with a certain type of math problem,
Yeah,
maybe it's because their brain is wired for a different approach.
exactly. The book contrasts the approaches of two famous mathematicians,
Okay.
Weierstrass and Riemann, to illustrate this.
Uh-huh.
Weierstrass was very rigorous and logical, laying the foundation for modern analysis. Riemann, on the other hand, was a master of geometric intuition,
Okay.
seeing patterns in shapes and spaces that others missed.
And they both made major contributions
They did.
to mathematics, despite their contrasting styles.
Yes.
How can someone figure out if they're more of a Weierstrass or a Riemann?
Well, think about how you approach math problems.
Okay.
Do you prefer step-by-step logic?
Okay.
Or do you find yourself visualizing concepts and looking for patterns? Neither approach is better than the other. The key is recognizing your strengths and finding the methods that work best for you.
That's such a helpful takeaway.
Good.
It's not about forcing yourself to fit into a certain mold, but about playing to your strengths.
Absolutely.
This book really seems to get into the psychology of math.
It does.
It even talks about concept image and concept definition, right?
Yes, concept image is the mental picture and all the associations you have with a mathematical concept.
Okay.
For example, when you think of a circle, you probably picture a round shape.
Right. That makes sense.
Right.
So concept image is like the intuitive picture in your head.
Yes.
What about concept definition?
Concept definition is the formal, rigorous definition you'd find in a textbook. So for a circle, it would be something like the set of all points in a plane that are a fixed distance from a given point.
So concept image is the intuitive picture and concept definition is the precise statement.
Yes.
But this book is saying those two things don't always match up.
That's right. Tall and Vinner, the mathematicians who coined these terms, found that mismatches between concept image and concept definition can lead to confusion and mistakes. Think about the concept of a tangent. Many people picture a tangent as a line touching a circle at one point and extending infinitely.
Wait, are you saying that even seasoned mathematicians can have flawed concept images?
Yes, they can.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It happens more often than you might think, and it highlights the importance of critically examining our understanding of mathematical concepts
Right.
and making sure our mental pictures align with the formal definitions.
Okay, so going back to tangents, what's wrong with that picture of a line touching a circle?
Well, that limited concept image can cause problems when dealing with curves other than circles.
Okay.
The formal definition of a tangent is more nuanced and applies to a wider range of curves.
Right.
If you're only picturing the circle case, you might misapply the definition in other situations.
Wow. I'm starting to see how these subtle differences can really trip you up
Yes.
in advanced math.
They can.
It's not enough to just memorize definitions. You have to truly understand them and how they apply in different contexts.
Exactly. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of mathematics that the book explores.
Okay.
Creativity.
Hold on, math can be creative.
It can.
I always thought it was all about logic and rules.
That's a common misconception. The book presents a three-stage model of mathematical creativity.
Okay.
It starts with algorithmic activity, where you apply known procedures and formulas.
Okay. That sounds familiar, like solving equations step by step.
Exactly.
What happens after that?
That's where the creative spark comes in.
Ooh.
The second stage is called creative or conceptual activity.
Okay.
This involves insightful leaps, connecting ideas in new ways, and essentially thinking outside the box to find solutions.
You know, I was working on the Sudoku puzzle the other day, and I totally hit that creative activity stage,
Oh, yeah.
when I suddenly saw a new pattern,
Yes.
it felt more like inspiration than just following rules.
Yeah. That's a great example, and it highlights how creativity plays a role even in seemingly structured activities like math.
Yeah.
The final stage is consciousness of the new creation, where you reflect on your solution, check its validity,
Okay.
and see if it can be generalized to other problems.
So it's about taking a step back and seeing the bigger picture,
Yes.
not just focusing on the mechanics of solving the problem.
Exactly. And to really illustrate this creative process, the book dives into a specific example problem.
Okay.
Imagine this: a man was a child for 1/6 of his life, a young man for 1/12 more.
Okay, before you go on, this is already sounding like a classic word problem that could give anyone a headache.
It might.
Are you sure we want to go down this rabbit hole?
Trust me, it's worth it. This problem perfectly demonstrates how those 3 stages of creativity might play out in solving a mathematical puzzle.
Okay.
But we'll have to save that for our next segment.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back to tackle that word problem. All right, let's tackle that word problem you mentioned. You left us hanging with a man was a child for 1/6 of his life.
Yes. So the problem continues. A man was a child for 1/6 of his life, a young man for 1/12 more, and a bachelor for 1/7 more. 5 years after his marriage, his son was born. Sadly, the son died 4 years before his father, at half his father's final age. How old was the father when he died?
Okay, I can already feel my brain starting to sweat.
Yeah.
How does this problem illustrate those 3 stages of mathematical creativity?
Well, the first stage, algorithmic activity, would involve setting up the problem mathematically.
Okay,
We could use variables, maybe x for the father's age at death,
right.
and create equations based on the information given.
Right, so that's the step-by-step follow the formula part.
Yeah.
Then we hit the creative stage, right?
Exactly.
What would that look like for this problem?
Here's where things get interesting.
Okay,
The creative leap might involve visualizing the problem,
okay.
perhaps drawing a timeline to represent the father's life and the different events. Or it could involve recognizing patterns in the fractions and relationships, which might lead to a shortcut or a simpler way to solve the equations.
So instead of just crunching numbers, we might actually sketch out the problem or look for deeper connections.
Exactly. That's the essence of the creative stage. And then once we've hopefully found a solution, we move to the final stage of consciousness of the new creation.
Right.
We check our work, make sure our answer makes sense in the context of the problem, and maybe even consider different ways we could have solved it.
I can see how this problem could really push someone to think creatively
It does.
and flex those mathematical muscles. It's making me realize that there's so much more to math than just plugging numbers into formulas.
That's a great insight, and this book goes even deeper, exploring how mathematical thinking isn't just an individual pursuit, it's also a social process.
Wait, what do you mean? Are you saying math is influenced by social factors?
Absolutely. The book argues that the acceptance of a mathematical proof isn't just about the logic itself. It's also about how the mathematical community perceives and judges the proof.
Okay.
Factors like understanding significance, consistency with existing knowledge, and even the reputation of the mathematician proposing it can all play a role.
So it's not just about whether a proof is technically correct,
Right.
but also about whether it resonates with the broader mathematical community.
Exactly. There have been cases throughout history where groundbreaking mathematical ideas were initially met with resistance because they were too radical, too complex, or presented by someone outside the established elite.
Wow. So even in a field as seemingly objective as math, there's this human element, this social dimension that influences how knowledge is accepted and shared.
Precisely. Think about Georg Cantor's work on infinity.
Yeah.
His ideas were revolutionary and challenged the prevailing assumptions about the nature of infinity.
Right.
Initially, his work was met with fierce resistance, some even going so far as to personally attack him.
It's like any new scientific theory.
Yeah.
There's a period of scrutiny and debate before it becomes widely accepted.
Yeah.
But I guess I just never thought of math that way before.
It's a fascinating aspect of the field. Another example is Andrew Wiles's proof of Fermat's last theorem. This theorem had remained unproven for centuries, and Wiles's initial proof contained a subtle error.
Oh, wow.
It took over a year of intense scrutiny and collaboration
Really?
before the proof was finally accepted as valid.
So mathematical proof isn't just a solitary logical exercise.
No.
It's a dialogue, a process of validation and refinement that involves the entire mathematical community.
Yes.
That adds a whole new layer of complexity and intrigue to the field.
It certainly does. And speaking of complexity, the book also dives into the challenges of teaching and learning advanced mathematical concepts.
Ah, yes, the eternal struggle. I'm guessing this book has some insights into why math can be so difficult to teach and learn effectively.
It certainly does. One of the biggest challenges is bridging the gap between a student's intuitive understanding of a concept and the formal, rigorous definition.
Right, we talked about that earlier with the whole concept image versus concept definition idea.
Exactly. And at the advanced level, this becomes even more crucial.
Yeah.
The definitions become more abstract, and the concepts themselves are often built on layers of previous knowledge.
So if a student's concept image doesn't align with the formal definition, it can create a major roadblock to their understanding.
Absolutely. And the book highlights the importance of using multiple representations of a concept to help bridge that gap.
Okay.
For example, instead of just presenting the algebraic definition of a function, a teacher might also use graphs tables and verbal descriptions to create a richer and more comprehensive understanding.
So it's about showing them that a function can wear many different hats.
Precisely. And it's about highlighting the connections between those representations, showing how they all relate to the same underlying concept.
I can see how that would help solidify a student's understanding. It's like giving them different perspectives on the same landscape so they can build a more complete mental map.
That's a great analogy. The book also stresses the importance of moving away from rote memorization and towards a deeper conceptual understanding.
Yes, I've heard that phrase before, conceptual understanding, but what does it actually mean in practice?
It means helping students see the connections between different mathematical ideas.
Okay.
Instead of just teaching them a series of isolated formulas or procedures, we need to help them understand the underlying principles that connect those ideas.
So it's about teaching them to think like mathematicians, not just calculate like computers.
Exactly. And this requires a shift in teaching methods. It's not enough to just lecture and have students work through textbook exercises.
Right.
We need to create learning environments that encourage exploration, experimentation, and even productive struggle.
So more hands-on inquiry-based learning.
Precisely give students opportunities to grapple with challenging problems, to make conjectures, to test their ideas, and to communicate their reasoning to others. This type of active learning helps them build deeper connections and develop the critical thinking skills that are essential for advanced mathematics.
It sounds like effective teaching of advanced math is less about lecturing and more about facilitating deep, meaningful engagement with the subject matter.
That's a great way to put it. The book offers several specific recommendations for how teachers can create these rich learning environments.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Hmm.
What are some of those recommendations?
One suggestion is to use problem-based learning,
Okay.
where students are presented with challenging problems that drive their learning.
Okay.
Instead of being told what they need to know, they figure it out for themselves through exploration and experimentation.
That sounds like it could be really engaging for students.
It can be.
What else?
Another recommendation is to encourage collaborative learning.
Okay.
Have students work together in groups to solve problems, discuss ideas, and critique each other's reasoning.
So it's about creating a community of learners who support and challenge each other.
Exactly. And the book also highlights the value of incorporating technology into the learning process.
Ah, technology. I can already imagine using computer programs to visualize those complex mathematical concepts.
Yes, technology can be an incredibly powerful tool for helping students develop a deeper understanding of abstract mathematical ideas.
Right.
For example, there are programs that allow students to manipulate geometric shapes, explore different representations of functions, or even simulate complex mathematical processes.
That sounds like it could really help make those abstract concepts more concrete and accessible.
It can.
But it's not about replacing teachers with computers, right?
Of course not. It's about using technology as a tool to enhance the learning experience.
Right.
The key is to select the right tools for the task and integrate them thoughtfully into the curriculum.
This is also fascinating.
It is.
It's making me rethink everything I thought I knew about teaching and learning math.
That's the power of taking a deep dive. Now, there's one more crucial aspect of teaching and learning advanced math that we need to explore: assessment.
Oh, assessment. The word that sends shivers down the spines of students everywhere.
It doesn't have to be that way. The book argues that assessment should be a tool for learning, not just a way to measure performance.
So it's not just about giving grades, but about providing feedback that helps students improve their understanding.
Exactly. And this requires moving away from traditional testing, which often focuses on rote memorization, to more authentic assessments that measure conceptual understanding and problem-solving skills.
So instead of just asking students to solve a bunch of equations, We might give them open-ended problems that require them to think critically and apply their knowledge in new contexts.
Precisely, we could also use a variety of assessment methods, such as projects, presentations, or even student-created problems to allow students to demonstrate their understanding in different ways.
I love that idea. It
Mm.
seems so much more engaging and meaningful than just filling out a multiple-choice test. This book is really challenging a lot of my assumptions about math education.
And that's what makes it such a valuable resource. Now, before we move on, there's one more intriguing idea. The book explores the concept of epistemological obstacles.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious vocabulary. Remind me what epistemological obstacles are all about.
Essentially, they are hurdles in understanding that stem from the historical evolution of mathematical concepts.
Okay.
They're like carrying around old, outdated maps that can lead us astray in the modern mathematical landscape.
So it's like trying to navigate a modern city using a map from 100 years ago. You might end up in a river.
Exactly. The book gives several compelling examples of these obstacles. One of the most striking is the development of the concept of limits in calculus.
Limits like approaching a value but never actually reaching it.
Yes, the modern rigorous definition of limit is the result of centuries of mathematical thought, but along the way, there were many different conceptions of limits, some of which were inaccurate or contradictory.
So those earlier flawed conceptions can act like roadblocks for students trying to grasp the modern definition. It's like those outdated maps leading us in the wrong direction.
Precisely, and the book emphasizes the importance of explicitly addressing those misconceptions.
Okay.
Explain the historical context, discuss the challenges mathematicians faced, and show how the modern definition emerged from those struggles.
It's almost like a little history lesson can help clear up those conceptual roadblocks.
Exactly. It helps students see that math is not just a set of rules, but a human endeavor, a journey of discovery with its own twists, turns, and dead ends.
I'm starting to see how understanding these epistemological obstacles can really transform the way we approach teaching and learning advanced math. It's not just about delivering content. It's about guiding students through the historical and conceptual landscape of the subject.
That's the essence of it. It's about helping students develop the critical thinking skills and the conceptual flexibility to navigate the complexities of advanced math and to appreciate its rich history and ongoing evolution.
This deep dive has been incredibly enlightening so far. It's challenged my assumptions, broadened my understanding, and left me feeling really inspired to explore the world of math with a fresh perspective.
And we're not quite done yet. There's one more important aspect of mathematical thinking that this book highlights.
Okay, you were about to tell us about one more important aspect of mathematical thinking that this book highlights.
Well, the book leaves us with a powerful reminder that even in a field as seemingly objective as math, social and cultural factors play a significant role. Mathematical knowledge isn't created in a vacuum. It's shaped by the communities and the context in which it's developed.
That makes me think back to our discussion about mathematical proof. It's not just about the logic itself. It's also about how the mathematical community validates and accepts those proofs. It's like a giant peer review process.
Exactly. The book argues that this social dimension of math isn't a weakness, but actually a strength. It allows for rigorous testing of ideas, debate, and refinement, ultimately leading to more robust and reliable knowledge.
So it's like a scientific community test of hypotheses and refining theories through a process of collaboration and debate. And it makes me wonder if someone's listening who's maybe intimidated by advanced math, how can they embrace this social aspect to help them learn and grow?
That's a great question. I'd say one of the most important things is to find a community of like-minded individuals who share your passion for math. That could be a study group, a math club, or even an online forum. The key is to create a space where you feel comfortable asking questions, sharing ideas, and working collaboratively.
It's like having a support system, people who understand the challenges and can help you through those aha moments and those head-scratching moments too.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to seek out mentors or role models in the field. There are so many amazing mathematicians out there who are passionate about sharing their knowledge and inspiring the next generation.
This whole conversation is really shifting my perspective on advanced mathematical thinking. It's not just about memorizing formulas and proving theorems. It's about joining a community, engaging in a dialogue, and contributing to a collective body of knowledge.
That's a wonderful way to put it. And the book emphasizes that this social dimension of math is something we should actively foster, both in our research and in our teaching.
So how can teachers create classroom environments that embrace this social aspect of math?
One key strategy is to encourage collaboration and discussion. Instead of just lecturing, create opportunities for students to work together, share ideas, and challenge each other's thinking. Group projects, peer-to-peer teaching, and even math debates can be great ways to foster this collaborative spirit.
That sounds way more engaging than just sitting in rows listening to a lecture and working on problems in isolation.
Absolutely. And it also helps students develop crucial communication and teamwork skills that will serve them well in any field, not just math.
Also thinking back to our discussion about epistemological obstacles,
Mhm.
those historical hurdles in understanding mathematical concepts. Could this social aspect of math also help us overcome those obstacles?
That's a brilliant connection. By studying the history of math, by understanding the debates and the dead ends that mathematicians encountered along the way, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the subject and avoid falling into the same conceptual traps. It's like having a map that shows not just the destination, but also the treacherous paths to avoid.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener. It's challenged my assumptions, broadened my understanding, and left me feeling so much more connected to the world of math.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Before we wrap up, is there any final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I'd simply encourage everyone to approach math with a sense of curiosity, openness, and a willingness to embrace the challenges. Advanced math can be demanding, but it's also incredibly rewarding. It's a journey of discovery that can lead to profound insights, not just about the nature of numbers and shapes, but also about the nature of the human mind and the universe we inhabit.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close. A huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through the fascinating world of advanced mathematical thinking.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this exploration as much as we have. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.